Hello and welcome to another special edition of GNAT-TV's In-Depth series. I'm Andrew McKeever, the news director here at GNAT-TV's News Project, and it's a pleasure to have you with us today. Today is Tuesday, February 26th. It's also a pleasure to be joined here in the studio by two gentlemen who are competing for one of the three seats on the Dorset Select Board. The seat they're pursuing is the three-year seat. And it's great to welcome here to the studio Jack Stannard from Dorset, who is the incumbent office holder, and Jim Salsgiver, his challenger. Gentlemen, great to have you with us today.
Thank you.
Jack Stannard has been on the Dorset Select Board for quite a while, I guess it's fair to say. He first began serving in 1970, and then since then has been on the Select Board for about a total of 20 years altogether, including the last 3. He also served for 9 years on the Dorset School Board and was also a chair of the Select Board for a while as well. Jim Salsgiver is currently serving on the Taconic and Green Regional School District Board. He was also a member of the Dorset School Board before it was merged into the Taconic and Green, and has also been a member of the Dorset Energy Committee since 2009. He's also the chairman of the Bennington-Rutland Supervisory Union's board. And at that point, I think I'm going to turn it over to you folks to tell us a little bit more about your backgrounds and other boards you may have served on, and just give us a little sense as to what prompted you both to throw your hats in the ring this year. Jack, you're the incumbent, so I guess we'll start with you.
Okay. I am a nasty old native Vermonter. I've lived in Dorset not all my life so far.
Yeah.
And for basically 50 years, I have tried to keep Dorset by serving on the school board and serving on the Board of Selectmen for many years. And I plan to do that. Someone said to me the other day, "We heard you're not running again and we're sorry." I said, "Where did you hear that?" I said, "It'll be published. When I give up running, it will be published. It's called an obituary." So.
Okay, well, very good. Jim, what prompted you to throw your hat in the ring for this seat?
Well, I'm a relative newcomer, next to Jack. I've been here for about 15 years in Dorset. I've been involved. I've tried to, like Jack, I've got a couple things in common there. One, wanting to keep Dorset. Another thing, trying to figure out a way to give back to the community. The community's given a lot to us. We have 4 daughters who went through Dorset School and Burton, and it's been a wonderful place for us to be. That's what brought us here to Dorset was, the kids and looking for a better place for them. And my wife and I, the kids are all grown and they've left and starting their careers, but, my wife and I, Craig and I, are still in Dorset, still loving life here. And we want to give back to the community, so both of us try to figure out ways to do that. And so I've tried to be in through education, the Energy Committee, also North Shire Rescue Squad, tried to give back to the community. And I've always had an interest in getting a shot at being on the Select Board. I view it as an extremely important entity for the town of Dorset. And so, frankly, we've finished a couple of big projects, like the merger of Taconic and Green and all. And I stepped off one board that was not a real town-oriented one last year. And, frankly, I just looked and said, this is a good time for me to follow that path I'm interested in and join the Select Board.
Great. Well, before I get kudos to both of you for running. I mean, it's been my sense over the past 10 or so years that a lot of these seats go sort of unspoken for. There's very few competitive races, and we're seeing some seats where there's nobody putting their hat in at all. So it's great that both of you are putting yourselves forward as, for the service to your town. I thought we could talk a little bit about some of what you both see as sort of the major issues that you see looming in the future for Dorset. I mean, as I look around the county, some things sort of seem to carry over from one town to another, and housing, or the availability, or rather the lack of availability of affordable housing for working families seems to be kind of a common theme I'm hearing a lot. And I guess I just wondered, is that something you feel is an issue you might have to tackle in Dorset?
Yes. The Raptor Lane land up there, that's one of the first things that we were talking about. Maybe getting 8 or 10 low-cost housing for people with families. Now that would kill 2 birds with 1 stone. It would cut down on the traffic down Route 30 every morning and every night, and it would provide more children in the Dorset school. We need more children in the Dorset school. For the facility and the faculty we got, we could use probably 50 more kids. Now, a few affordable housing units might bring in 15 kids, but that would be 15 kids that we don't have. And it's one of the most important things that we could do with the lower end of that land that was broken up into building lots for sale. And I think that's about the most important thing. The other thing on the Raptor Lane is the recreational opportunities that it offers, going along with our other land up there, of hiking trails and so on. There's also a good chance, because it's been heavily cut over, that we could teach landowners through taking them around up there with the foresters. We could show them how to manage their woodlands, which is something that wasn't, it's being done more because there are more foresters around. Mm-hmm. But that is an excellent place to set that up, along with the recreational purposes, and maybe relocating the Dorset town office there. The one we have needs more urgent care at this point. We could use a larger one. It could be provided there, and you can't see it from the road. It's in a basin. Everything that you do in there is not visible from the road. You could put a future fire district there for both East Dorset and Dorset. There's all sorts of the municipal uses for trucks and so on could be there. It's just an opportunity that I keep cautioning at the meetings. When people start getting all up, well, we can do this, we can do, let's study it. We're only going to get an opportunity like this once. Mm-hmm. And in my 73 years, it's the only time we've had an opportunity like this. And let's do the best that we can for the town of Dorset. You probably won't find anybody that loves the town of Dorset any more than I do. And I've spent quite a bit of my life working on it and keeping it Dorset. And I will continue to do that.
All right. Jim, what's your takeaway on some of the big issues facing the town that you see?
Well, Raptor Lane definitely is a major one, and that's one of the things that gets me excited about potentially being a part of the select board. I think Jack nailed on the head on we do have an issue when we're talking about keeping Dorset. he's right on the schools. I look at, being on the school board, I look at the numbers, and and I kind of look at the number of kids we have from kindergarten to grade 4 as sort of young families and people moving in. And this year we've got in grades K to 4, we have a total of 56 kids in the school. If you look at over the last 4 years, on including this year, on average, we had 70 kids in K to 4. The 5 years before that, we had 90 kids K to 4. So we really have an issue where we don't have, for whatever reasons, we don't have the kids and the young families in the town, and I think we do need to address that. And I think Raptor Lane, is an opportunity to address. I mean, Jack hit on a lot of things. I love the fact that the select board is putting together a committee to discuss that and figure out ways to potentially use that property. And my big focus actually would be sort of affordable housing, and maybe there are a few different ideas that I have, but it doesn't matter if I have an idea. It's got to get into the public discussion and figure out the ways to use it. But I would hope, that's 300 acres, and it was originally set up for 8 homes. And I look at it, and like Jack's saying, you can split it into different sections, use it in different ways. And I actually think you could end up, maybe creating something that would be very, very much, one of my sort of pie in the sky ideas is, something that looks kind of like the Dorset Green there with more affordable housing. So you could actually do more units potentially, but still have it fit the feeling of the town. So I think Raptor Lane is something that's really, really exciting as an opportunity for the town. And as Jack said, you don't get these opportunities all that often. And figuring out how to do it right, engaging the community on different plans and ideas, I think is a really important thing for the select board to be doing. From now through until we figure it out.
Mm-hmm. And just for the benefit of those who may not be totally familiar with the Raptor Lane project, that's a parcel of about 300 acres over Route 30 near J.K. Adams that the town acquired. And you're planning on doing, it looks like a lot of different things here, multiple units of planned housing and relocating the town office perhaps, and using it for recreational opportunities as well. Is there any timeline on when this was all going to sort of be done, or just kind of whenever things work out?
I think Jack hit on it right. You don't want to rush to do something. You actually want to do something that makes sense, is right, and that the community's behind.
Okay.
Is that fair?
So it's pretty much a done deal, though. I mean, the property is acquired, and it's just a matter of figuring out what's going to go where, or.
No matter what you do, there will be some people that will be unhappy. Now, that's a fact of town politics.
I guess that's
You
democracy,
can't
huh?
make everybody happy
Right.
all the time. You can try your best. You can do what's best in your mind, from your experience, for your town. And that's what I always try to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, that's the main name of the game, I guess. What other things are kind of being discussed in Dorset, or have been, kind of items that the select board has talked about? Thinking back a little bit, I remember hearing some discussion about business growth in town and trying to do more to attract more businesses, and therefore we assume jobs as well for the young folks that we want to see moving into the town. Is that something that's still kind of kind of on the front burner, or
Do
no?
you want to keep Dorset, or do you want to make it a commercial town like Manchester? There's not very many towns like Dorset in southern Vermont. Let's preserve that. People come to Dorset for what it is. They don't want to go there because there's 3 more J.K. Adams put in, and discount stores and so on. That isn't what they come to Dorset. That isn't Dorset. So Dorset's main business is real estate. There's no question about it. The real estate turns over in Dorset. I think most houses turn over once every 8 years. It might be less than that. But that is the business of Dorset. And if you start commercializing it, you're going to lose that. I believe you're going to lose it.
The quality of life of the town would
Yeah.
suffer? Okay. Jim, what's your sense of that?
Well, I agree that you don't want to, again, keeping Dorset is extremely important, and that's, one of my goals. At the same time, I think, what we've seen is, on the economic development front, and I've been involved with some economic development in southern Vermont as a whole, and it's important we look beyond Dorset, and, because a lot of, when you get into the commercial establishments and all, it's great for those to develop, but not necessarily in Dorset. But in Dorset, we can be friendly to and support. There are a lot of, small sort of homegrown businesses and small businesses. We the other day, at the kitchen store, there was a woman who started up a new fudge company in Dorset. There's Black Cat Coffee, there's Toast Beverages. There are a lot of little companies that are sort of, building up, but not negatively impacting, what Dorset is. And I think, we want to encourage, that sort of activity, because I think it's important across southern Vermont to encourage new economic activity that fits within your community. And so, I'm supportive of, trying to figure out ways to make it easier for people to do things as long as they don't destroy, the nature of the town. And I think we can do some things on that front. You can't do a lot, but you can, essentially you can figure out ways to not be in the way of people being able to, create a successful small business in Dorset.
All right. A couple of years ago, at least, there seemed to be a lot of discussion about the two fire departments in town, whether or not to merge the two of them together, the East Dorset Fire Department and the Dorset Fire Department. But that seems to have gotten kind of quiet. Am I to assume that a happy synergy is now forming between the two, or is there any new talk about maybe trying to kind of bring the two together to create more operating efficiencies, or what have you, or is that sort of a done deal now?
That would be the only reason to bring them together is for efficiencies. And if we put in one fire department, like up in Raptor Lane, and combine the two, it would cut down on the response, it would lengthen the response time, to a fire in some cases. But this is a little bit against what I said at a meeting a number of years ago. The Lord put that mountain between Dorset and East Dorset, and it meant for us to have two fire departments.
Okay.
But the expenses right now, because of the state laws, the fire district is a separate municipality by law. The water district is the people that are served by the water company, the reservoir. Now, changing that infrastructure over is going to be millions of dollars. And it falls on 200 people. It doesn't fall on everybody in the fire district, only the ones that are in the water company. We have people that are living on fixed incomes. And I said to one woman when they started raising the fire tax, I said, you might have to look at one of those reverse mortgages. She said, Jack, I've been living on one for 4 years. That's pretty sad. Somebody that's lived their entire life here, and you can't get off the water company. you can't drill your own well by the laws. And when you go to vote on it, you've got 800 people voting against something that serves 200 people. That isn't right. It's statutory, but it isn't right. And it should be changed. I talked to Linda Sullivan about it, and she knows what I'm talking about.
That's your representative to the State House.
Linda and I were good friends. We started out a couple years ago. I had decided that it was time for me to run for the legislature again, something I gave up once I started a family. And so Linda and I were running against each other. Once a week during the summer, we'd sit down and have coffee and chat. And by the time the summer was 3/4 over, I said, we basically agree on everything. And it's foolish for me to run against her because she is much more accomplished at representing Dorset than a hard-headed old Vermonter like me. So when it came the day of the election, I'm standing with her outside the door of the polls, introducing her to everybody and asking them to support her.
That sounds bipartisan.
I remember one woman saying, Jack Stannard, I came up here to vote for you, and I don't care what you say, I'm going to vote for you, so what could I say other than thank you?
I guess that's it. Jim, what is your feeling on the fire department situation? Is it basically settled now, or?
Well, I think it's going to continue to be something that needs to be considered and discussed for years. We made some positive movements to kind of pulling things together, handling the administration at town hall. I think that was a positive thing. The billing. But it's really rough, through my, being on the North Shire Rescue Squad board, I dealing with a lot of issues, and, North Shire Rescue Squad has paid staff for the most part. But we still get involved with the issue of volunteers and being able to track volunteers in EMS and fire. And that's a huge issue in the state. And it's very difficult to attract people, and we're also interested because most of the squads around us are volunteer squads. And and it's one community. We've got North Shire Rescue Squad, but Londonderry and Granville and Arlington, et cetera, they all fit into the whole picture. And when they're having difficulty finding volunteers, it impacts all of us. And at the state level, there's acknowledgement of the fact that getting volunteer firemen or EMS personnel is really hard, getting harder. The average age, is getting well up there, into the upper 50s. And so, the problem with pulling the squads together, the two, fire districts, is we rely on volunteers, and honestly, they're extremely valuable to the system. We have to figure out a way to finesse sort of, their needs with the needs of the town. And as Jack said, if you did something, we looked at a central, behind the Dorset School. We looked at the possibility of, building a facility there. And, honestly, it was very difficult to bring the two organizations together culturally and all that. But, I think we have to continue to work on it and have it as, something we can consider. Response times are really important. But at the same time, I think we have to deal with it because, honestly, both departments are having a tough time, I think, having enough personnel, volunteer personnel there to keep it running.
Yeah.
So, also, and you don't want to try to push them together and then lose everybody, but at the same time, if you could somehow get it together, then you might have somewhat less of a need for the number of volunteers. It's just an issue that I think is going to be a perennial issue that we're going to have to be thinking about.
It has been a perennial
Yeah.
issue because years ago, Dorset had a surplus of firemen. And poor East Dorset only had a handful of guys.
Yeah.
Now it's the other way around.
The other way around.
Yeah, but that's the way it goes.
And it's tough too, because with the fire departments, most of the volunteers don't live in town.
Right.
So we're having to attract people from elsewhere, and that fits into the whole issue of having younger people, younger couples living in the town as well. And it's a lot of these issues just kind of tie together when you start looking at them. Right. But I think it's fire. When I got involved with EMS, that was the first time I really focused on how important that is to the community. And fire's the same thing. It's just a core important part. You've got to have that protection there for people, and so you have to figure out a way to make it work. And I expect it's going to evolve over time, but you have to keep it on the agenda and figure out how to do it in the best way possible. That is, you can't. Efficiency and money is not everything, but you can't ignore that either. So we have to continue to focus and figure out the best way to run it going forward.
All right. Were there any other major issues that you're hearing around town that we didn't have a chance to talk about before we wrap our discussion up? And is there anything we didn't touch upon that is
He's
really a
going to
critical
shut
issue?
us off.
I know we could talk for a lot longer about all of this.
We
but-
could get a little into sort of zoning and just continuing, but that fits into the sort of the economic development, which I think zoning is something that it's been a hot topic in Dorset. It's one of those where it really fits into that category of, if you want to keep Dorset Dorset, then you have to be careful about zoning. At the same time, I think that if you want to support the idea of people starting up those small businesses I was talking about, things like that, then supporting the development of businesses that still fit the character of Dorset, then that may also need to be addressed in zoning. So I think down the road that is going to be an important thing. But I think for any of these issues, I think the select board has done a pretty good job over time. There was, in trying to reach out to the community and get feedback. There was, in 2013, there was the build-out study. In 2016, you had the North Shire Economic Development Study. So we've been able to get input from the Dorset community on some of these things over time, and I think that's important to kind of keep that on the agenda. Figuring out ways. Even the Raptor Lane is a great opportunity. The Energy Committee has something that's going to be coming this summer that's going to create, some community dialogue. But I think, having that dialogue on some of these issues and taking the opportunity to kind of broaden it out and, test the feelings of the community, I think that's something that is going to be very important as well. I think, a board is there to serve the community. But the board can only do that in a reasonable way if they're actually in touch with the community. So I think that needs to be a focus.
Is zoning one of those questions you see also, Jack, as a big question
Not
of the board?
so much anymore. I've heard mention of a few things, like they were talking about recreation trails and so on down in the Dorset wetlands. That is a Class 1 wetland. Nothing can be built in there. No wooden walkways, nothing of that sort. It's a Class 1 waterway. It's one of our jewels. Yeah, if you want to put your boots on, you can go enjoy it. I can even show you places to go, because there isn't 100 square feet that I'm not familiar with, because I grew up, that was my playground. And all the mountains were my playground. I've spent my life playing in the woods, okay?
Well, I don't know. It doesn't sound so bad to me.
Yeah.
Beats video games, I would think, anyway. But, well, we got a few minutes left, so I just wanted to give you both an opportunity to kind of just talk to the voters that may be seeing this and tell them why they ought to vote for you. And Jack, again, you're the incumbent, so we'll give you the first crack at that one.
Well, as I said, I've spent most of my life on Dorset boards because I love Dorset. I want to keep Dorset as Dorset. And that's why I continue to run. And if Jim's successful, I will be running next year, and I will run hard.
I'll be back, as someone once said, huh? All right. Jim, why do you think voters should cast their ballot for you?
Well, like Jack, loving Dorset is, I think, a prerequisite to running for this position, let alone, certainly prerequisite to getting elected. I think, I think I bring a couple other things to the table, hopefully. One is, I've actually, through my time on different boards, I look back to when I joined the Dorset School Board about a decade ago. I didn't really have a clue of how boards, when I look back, being honest, I really didn't have a clue of how boards work or what a board member, what makes a good board member. But I've, studied and done training and stuff like that over the years, and I think I know what it takes to, to be a good board member, and I think it can also be helpful from the standpoint of, ensuring that, helping the board to figure out ways to be the most effective and productive that it can be. I also bring to the table my financial background, which I, now that I've been on a number of boards for a number of years, almost every time I find that usually the thing that people really don't enjoy all that much when they're on boards are budgets and finances and all. I do like that stuff. My background is as a financial analyst, and so that's stuff that I really do enjoy. I think it's really important that everybody on the board understands all the financial issues, but at the same time, I'm perfectly happy to take a little more than my share of that financial work. So basically, I think I always take when I take on a position like this, if I'm lucky enough to get elected, I take it very seriously, and willing to work for the town and try to do what's right. I think Jack, obviously, he takes it seriously and is willing to work for the town as well. But I'd be interested and hope I can get some support and some votes on March 5th.
All right. And so the voting will be...
I would tell you this, that what I've learned over the years is not to run my lips at the meeting continuously like I did for decades. Listen.
Yep.
If you listen, you're way ahead to what the other people on the board are saying. And you can sort it all out a lot better.
Yep.
By listening.
Yep. Agreed.
Well, I think that just about runs us right out of time. Voting will be held at the town hall in
Dorset School.
At the Dorset School, Tuesday, March 5th, from I believe 8 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Or 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
7 to 7.
Like that.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure.
Right. Well, we can go to the Dorset website and find that out. Anyway, well, great. Gentlemen, thank you both for making the time today to come by and tell the folks, about some of your ideas on the select board and why they ought to vote for you and all of that. And good luck to both of you going forward. And so, folks, get out there to the polls on March 5th and, cast your ballot, exercise your choice. Thank you for being with us today. We hope you found the program today interesting and informative, and we'll look forward to having you back with us again the next time. Have a great day.